Hello everyone, I Dr. Jitender Rai, Faculty of MCA Department from Tecnia Student Advanced Studies. Today I am going to deliver lecture on the topic JSP Basics and Architecture. JSP technology is used to create web application just like Servlet technology. It can be thought of as an extension to Servlet because it provides more functionality than Servlet such as expression language, jstl, etc. A JSP page consists of HTML tags and JSP tags. The JSP pages are easier to maintain than Servlet because we can separate designing and development. It provides some additional features such as expression language, custom tags, etc. Some of the advantages of JSP over internet. There are many advantages of JSP over Servlet. They are follows. Number 1, extension to Servlet. JSP technology is to extension to Servlet technology. We can all the feature of Servlet in JSP. In addition to, we can use implicit objects, predefined tags, expression language and custom tags in JSP that make JSP development easy. Second advantage is easy to maintain. JSP can be easily managed because we can easily separate our business logic with presentation logic. In Servlet technology, we mix our business logic with the presentation logic. The third advantage is fast development. No need to recompile and redeploy if JSP page is modified. We don't need to recompile and redeploy the projects. The Servlet code need to be updated and recompiled if we have to change the look and feel of the application. Fourth advantage is less code than Servlet. In JSP, we can use a lot of tags such as action tags, jstl, custom tags, etc. That reduces the code. Moreover, we can use EL, implicit objects, etc. Next is life cycle of a JSP page. The JSP page is following these phases. Number 1, translation of JSP pages. Number 2, compilation of JSP pages. Number 3, class loading. Class file is loaded by the class loader. Number 4, class installation. Object of the generated Servlet is created. Number 5, initialization. JSP init method is invoked by the container. Number 6, request processing. JSP service method is invoked by the container. Number 7, destroy. JSP-Destroy method is invoked by the container. JSP init, JSP service method and JSP-Destroy are the lifecycle methods of the JSP. In the above diagram, JSP page is translated into Servlet by the help of JSP translator. The JSP translator is a part of web server that is responsible to translate the JSP page into Servlet. After that, Servlet page is recompiled by the compiler and get converted into the class file. Moreover, all the processes those happen in Servlet are performed on JSP later, like initialization, committing, response to the browser and destroy, creating a simple JSP page. To create the first JSP page, write some HTML code as given below and save it by .jsp extension. We have saved this file as index.jsp, put it into the folder and paste the folder in the web apps directly in a Apache Tomcat to run the JSP page. Index.jsp. Let's see the simple example of JSP. Here we are using the scriptlet tag to put Java code in the JSP page. We will learn scriptlet tag later. HTML body and pass the delimiter sign out.print 2 into 5 and close the delimiter tag and close the body tag and close the h node. It will print 10 on the browser. How to run a simple JSP page? Follow the following steps to execute this JSP page. Number 1, start the server. Number 2, put the JSP file in a folder and deploy on the server. Number 3, visit the browser by the URL http localhost port context root JSP file. Directory structure of JSP. The directory structure of JSP page is same as Servlet. We contain the JSP page outside the WEB-INF folder or in the directory. Then next is JSP architecture. The web server needs a JSP engine container to process JSP page. The JSP container is responsible for intercepting requests for JSP page. A JSP container works with the web server to provide the runtime environment and other services a JSP needs. It knows how to understand the special elements that are part of the JSP. Following diagram show the position of the JSP container and JSP file in a web application. JSP processing. The following steps explain how the web server creates the web page using JSP. As with a normal page, your browser sends a HTTP request to the web server. The web server recognizes that the HTTP request is for a JSP page and forward it to a JSP engine. This is done by using the URL or JSP page, which end with the .jsp instead of .html. The JSP engine loads the JSP page from the disk and convert it into a servlet content. This conversion is very simple, in which all template text is converted to println. Student and all JSP elements are converted to Java code that implement the corresponding dynamic behavior of the page. The JSP engine compiles the servlet into an executable file and class and forward the original request to a servlet engine. The part of the web server called the servlet engine and load the servlet class and execute it. During execution, the servlet produces an output in HTML format, which is the servlet engine passes to the web server inside an HTTP response. The web server forwards the HTTP response to a browser in terms of static HTML content. Finally, web browser handles the dynamically generated HTML page inside the HTTP response exactly as if it were a static page. All the above mentioned steps can be shown below in the following diagram. Typically, the JSP engine checks to see whether a servlet for a JSP file already exists and whether the modification date on the JSP page older than the servlet. If the JSP is older than its generated servlet, the JSP container assumes that the JSP has not changed and that the generated servlet still matches the JSP contents. This makes the process more efficient than with other scripting languages such as PHP and therefore faster. So in a way, a JSP in a page is really just another way to write a servlet without having to be a Java programming, except for the translation phase. A JSP page is handled exactly like a regular servlet. The key to understand the low-level functionality of a JSP is to understand the simple lifecycle they follow. A JSP lifecycle can be defined as the entire process from its creation till the destruction, which is similar to a servlet lifecycle, with an additional step which is required to compile a JSP into servlet. The following are the paths followed by a JSP. Number 1, compilation. Number 2, initialization. Number 3, execution. Number 4, cleanup. The 4 major phases of JSP lifecycle are very similar to servlet lifecycle, and they are as follows. In the diagram, JSP compilation, when a browser asks for a JSP, the JSP engine first checks to see whether it needs to compile the page. If the page has never been compiled or if the JSP has been modified since it was last compiled, the JSP engine compiles the page. The compilation process involves 3 steps: parsing the JSP, turning the JSP into servlet, compilation the servlet, then JSP initialization. When a container loads a JSP, it invokes the jspInit method before servicing any request. If you need to perform JSP-specific initialization, override the JSP-init method, public void JSP-init method, and initializing the code. Typically, initialization is performed only once, and as with the servlet-init method, you generally initialize the database connections, open files, and create lookup table in the JSP-init method. JSP execution. This phase of the JSP lifecycle represents all interaction with Reqeust until the JSP is destroyed. Whenever a browser requests a JSP and the page has been loaded and initialized, the JSP engine invokes the JSP service method in the JSP. The JSP service method takes an HTTP servlet request and an HTTP servlet response as its parameter as follows: void JSP service and passing the parameter HTTP servlet request, then create object request, then HTTP servlet response, create object response, then close the bracket and pass the service handling code. The JSP service method of a JSP is invoked once per a request, and it is responsible for generating the response for that request, and this method is also responsible for generating responses to all 7 of the HTTP methods: get, post, delete, etc. JSP cleanup. The destruction phase of the JSP lifecycle is present when a JSP is being removed from use by a container. The JSP destroy method is the JSP equivalent of the destroy method for servlet. Override JSP destroy when you need to perform any cleanup, such as releasing databases, connections, or closing open file. The destroy method has the following form: public void JSP destroy method, and pass the code. Your cleanup code goes here. So I hope you understand the topic basics of JSP and architecture. Thank you very much.